This upgrade account button right here allows you to upgrade your users. At the beginning of the pandemic, 2020, early 2020, we stopped charging for users. So we did that just to kind of help people out and make it easier for you to use TouchStone remotely by adding users. So if you have run out of users, like you go to add a new user and it says you are at your 5 of 5 or you are at your 10 of 10, then just click this upgrade account button and go and select the amount of users you want and hit update. And it's just as easy as that to get more. Don't pay attention to this money here on the right-hand side because it doesn't pertain to anyone with a TouchStone account now and forever for the lifetime of their account. There might be a point in the future where we start charging for users again, but for those of you who have accounts now, you're never going to be charged for users. You do need to be the key account holder to see this upgrade account option. So the key account holder is me right here. Even if you've been made an administrator, but you're not the key account holder, you won't see this upgrade account button. So if that's your situation, just make sure that you have the key account holder log in and go to upgrade the account. The benefit of adding users to TouchStone here in account administration is that you're giving people individual access to TouchStone. The benefit is that you can then restrict their access based on that person and their situation. So that's the huge benefit. Another key benefit is that they're able to use their control panel on the dashboard. So I'm just going to go back here to the dashboard for a second. So here, this is the control panel that I have assigned for my position. And because I have my own username and password, and I've logged into TouchStone, and I've been given access, I see my control panel here. And I'm the only one who can go and access these processes here. I mean, these processes can be linked to other job descriptions and appear inside of other control panels. But the difference is when I click customer complaints right here, and if I was to go to this checklist and I fill this checklist out as I'm doing a complaint, and then I save it, the only one who can see this is me. Any data information that I've added, any notes that I've made, if I fill out a custom form and put confidential information in there and save it back to TouchStone, nobody else can see it but me and my manager. So by me, I mean here in the control panel, I'm the only one who can go in and run reports and see what I've done here. But because I'm these people's manager, these people down here in management review, I can go and see what they're doing. So TouchStone gives access by position, first of all, and then it gives managerial access to the subordinate positions or the positions underneath that person on the org chart. So if I'm the manager of sales and marketing, I would get management review for these positions down here. If I'm the operations manager, I would only be able to see inside of my department, so the people underneath me's control panels. This person here, the senior tech, can't see the warehouse manager or marketing coordinator, but they can see these positions down underneath them. The president, on the other hand, can see into everybody's control panel. The owners can see into everyone's and the president. So the higher you go in the org chart, the more expansive the access. So let's go back here to user accounts. So to create a new user, it's this button right here where it says new user. When I select it, I'm shown the blank profile that I would fill out with this new employees or new users information. The first option you have is the user type. So either it's a user, which means I can then restrict access of that person or of that user, or they're an administrator. Administrators have access to everything and can do everything in TouchStone except upgrade the account. So what that really means is that they can come here to account administration. They can mess around with everybody's user access. They can go to the 4 functions and delete things. They can change the org chart, everything. Being an administrator doesn't mean that that person can go to their dashboard and run a report of everybody's control panels. That's not what it means. The only way someone can do that is if they have a position above those other people on the org chart. But again, what an administrator can do is change things in the TouchStone account. So be aware of who you make an administrator. Usually it would be high-level positions in the company, like very high level, like people on the board or the president. It would be like a TouchStone power user, somebody who you've designated as the person who's going to be maybe entering data into TouchStone and reviewing it. So someone of that caliber. So the username here is the second field, and this needs to be an email address in the email address format. So some name at somethingelse.com. Again, it's good if it's a valid email address because then the password can be recovered. Then the password is put in twice. It has to be filled in twice. And then first and last name are the only other required fields. So all the other information that's below address and all of that, you can fill in if you'd like to. If you don't, you can leave it blank. So once I filled in at least these fields, then I go and hit create user. My passwords don't match. If they don't match, you're going to see that. So create user, and then that user is set on the user list right here. This user, I made an admin user just to show you what that looks like. I know I did that because this little green key appears next to this name. The little blue circles mean that these are regular users. You can see the legend right here, pretty easy. I can take someone who's an administrator and make them a user, or I can take a user and make them an administrator. All you do is flip the user type. So I go here and I choose user this time, and then I hit update at the bottom. Now this person's a user. This next toolbar item over from new user is called delete user. And this is where you would go to delete a user. If I hit the drop down here, I'm going to see everybody's names, first, last in alphabetical order. I then choose the user I want to delete and I hit delete. Are you sure? Okay. The consequence of deleting a user, their job description doesn't disappear. Nothing like that happens to the actual processes. But what does go away is any information that they've saved in their control panel. So over here on the dashboard, if that person is here and they've gone in and filled out forms and marked things as complete and checklists, everything here, that information will be gone. So when a person leaves, then it's a good idea to go and download any information that you need from that user's control panel. I'm going to go back here to the dashboard and then back here to account administration. This profile button, if I'm on any of these other options like delete user or new user, whatever user is illuminated, the one that I clicked the last time, if I hit user profile, then I'm going to see that user's profile. So it just gets you back to this screen right here. The next toolbar item over is called user access. And so this is where you go to set access. The difference between user access and control panel, which is to the right here, is the user access allows you to decide what type of access that employee is going to have to positions on the org chart, or to TouchStone is another way to say it. The control panel is the assignment of their control panel on the dashboard, like we saw over here. So let me go into a little bit more about that. So I'm going to click Jack's name right here on the list, and then I'm going to go to user access. So when I click a user from the user list and I go to user access, I then see my organization chart, and you'll see your chart here. And the reason you see the chart is because TouchStone assigns access by position on the org chart. So I think about Jack and his situation, and I decide which positions does he need to have access to. It doesn't necessarily have to be the position he fills. Usually it is, but it doesn't have to be that way. And there's a couple different situations where someone would have user access to positions that they don't fill on the org chart. One would be if the person is a manager. So if I'm the manager of admin finance here, I would need to have access to my own position, but then I might also have access to all these positions underneath me, all my subordinate positions. And in that way, as their manager, I could go in and update processes and add things and add new processes. So by giving somebody a higher level access than read only, you're then giving them the ability to edit and change things, build new processes. And it totally makes sense that a manager would have that level of access for their employees. One of the things I always try to describe is that a manager's job is to manage processes. They manage the processes by which people, the employees, get results. They get results through the processes. And it's a much different concept in a lot of cases, because oftentimes managers think of themselves as managing people and what they're doing and how they're doing it. If they shift that view to managing processes, it becomes more tangible, becomes easier to hold on to. And then you see much plainer how you use those processes with people to get results. So again, one situation where someone would have access to more than one position than their own is when they're a manager. The second situation would be when some person fills in for another position. So Jack here is the customer support position, and he's got right now currently read-only access to customer support. But let's say when the receptionist is on vacation, Jack fills in for the receptionist, cross-training. So in that situation, he might need access to receptionist, read-only access, and then hit update. So now you can see he's got access to both of these positions. There are three types of access. There's read-only access, there's edit access, and create. Edit access means that the person can not just read what's there, read their processes, read the processes on their job descriptions, but they can also edit it. So they can edit titles, they can edit work plans, edit checklists. They can't create new things though. They can't add processes to their job descriptions or add work plans or add checklists. All they can do is edit what's there. Create access is the next level of access aside from being an administrator. And what create access users can do is they can not only read and edit, but they can also add new things. They can create new things, adding new processes, work plans, checklists, tools. So create access, I think, is appropriate for managers for sure. Create access is also appropriate for any person that you're going to have helping you build the processes. So think about the person individually. Think about Jack and his situation. Is Jack just going to be using processes, being trained in them, referring to them, studying them, accessing them when he forgets something? Or is Jack going to be charged with creating his processes, building new things, adding to the information? So that's the simple question to answer for yourself. And that dictates whether you would make someone read only or create. And edit kind of falls in between. Once you've assigned access to a position, to a person, to a position, you can also change it. So I can click receptionist right here, and either I could remove his access altogether, or I could change it to create and edit and read right here. And then I just hit update, and then it's changed. So he's been removed or not given access to that position any longer. So I'm going to give Jack here access to bookkeeper. And let's give him create access to that. So now you can see create shows in blue. And then let's log in as Jack. So I'm going to log out. I'm just going to pull this screen over. And then let's log in as him. So this is his username and password that he would log in as. Right here is where you go if you've forgotten your password. So this is just emphasizing that point again, that if this is not a real email address, then this isn't going to go anywhere. Then I'm going to hit log in. So this is what it looks like when Jack logs in. First thing is over here on this navigation, you'll see that it's simplified to a certain degree. I can go to the dashboard and I can go to the org chart and I can run reports. So non-admin users don't see the 4 key functions. I'll just show you the difference here. I'm going to flip back to the dashboard here and then pull this up along side by side. So you see in this case, I've got 4 key functions. I've got all these features over here. Because I'm an admin user, I'm going to the 4 functions, I'm adding processes, I'm working with the 4 key functions to build it out. Whereas these non-admin users, they don't need to see that. They don't need to worry about it. They don't even need to know that it's there. All they need to know is how to access their processes. And if they're create users, it's not just how to access their processes, but maybe how do they help build the processes. They don't need to know everybody's process on the 4 key functions. I don't even need to see that. If I go over here to the org chart for this non-admin user that we're logged in as right now, this is what the org chart looks like. We think it's important for every employee to be able to see the organization chart. So that's why this tool exists for non-admin users. But as you can see, whatever positions they don't have access to, there are grayed out. And the only 2 that he's been given access to are illuminated here. So this is showing you more specifically what I mean by TouchStone gives access by position on the org chart. So when I select customer service here, I'm then seeing all the processes on this job description. I can see them all. But I can't edit or change anything here. I can't edit titles. I can't add new processes here. I can't move these processes around. When I select a process, you'll see right up here that it has taken me to the content, but through the dashboard. So let me show you that another way. If I go to the dashboard here, this is my control panel for customer support. So Jack, who we're logged in as, is the customer support position and has read-only access to this position. When I select customer service, not support, I see all the processes on his job description right here, or he would. And when he goes to a process like daily planning and say he's going to go and do some time logs here, he clicks time logs, and then he can go and fill all this out and then save it. So he's using the process. When he goes to the org chart and then clicks his position, he sees his job description, which is important. This is just another way to see the processes, different than from the dashboard slightly. But when he clicks daily planning or any process, it flips him back to the dashboard view. So you can see up here, dashboard, customer service. It's flipping him back to this view because he can't edit or change anything here. He's just using it. So he doesn't even see the process tools page where people build work plans and checklists and where all the creation happens. He's just seeing what's already been created. Conversely, if I go here to the org chart, and then remember, we gave him create access to this position for the bookkeeper. When I select bookkeeper, now I can add new processes to this job description. So this button appears here. I can click this and edit the title of this position even. And when I select a process, like this one, it's taking me to the process tools page, not back to the dashboard. So here's where I can build a work plan, checklist, scripts. So he has create only access so that it's appropriate when he clicks the process, it takes him here where he can edit the process and build the process. So I think the important things to remember are when you assign a level of access, think about if that person is going to be building and creating processes or just using them, or both. Maybe they're just using processes of one position and creating building of another. And then remember, if their interface when they're using TouchStone is slightly different, the intention is to simplify it, to make it easier, make it more usable. So it becomes extremely straightforward and usable when someone has read-only access because they don't even see that process tools page. But even when they do have access to a position where they can create and build, it's still pretty simple. They click it, they click all the processes that are already here, and then they go here where they can build and document those particular processes. Okay. So I'm going to log out of this and then go back where we started. And then back to account administration, go back to user accounts, go back to Jack here. So user access, that's where you set their rights to TouchStone. The next toolbar item over is where you create the control panels or where you set control panels. So I'm going to click control panel here and I see this same org chart, same as I saw under user access. So here I want to think solely, what position does Jack fill in the company? Not what does he need to have access to, but what position does he fill? And that's what you want to give him a control panel for. So you can see here that he has a control panel for customer service. And that's why when we logged in as him, we saw that control panel on his dashboard. There could be a situation where someone has more than one control panel. And that situation would be if they fill more than one box on the org chart, if they fill more than one position. Sometimes that happens when you've built a future chart. So you're building your chart for the future. You're saying, this is where we're going to be in 2 years or 1 year. And then in the time being or the current situation, people may fill more than one box in the org chart. So I'm going to go back to me right here, and then I'm going to go to control panel. So I have a control panel for the manager of admin finance, and it's a managerial control panel. And I know that because it's red and that says management assignment. If the employee you're giving a control panel to is a manager, then you want to give them a management assignment. So you'd click the position you want to give them a control panel for, and then you choose manager here, or you choose staff if they're not a manager. The difference is when you choose manager, that then gives that employee access to the control panels of the positions underneath them. So all right here. So I'm going to remove this control panel for a second and make a kind of finite point. You see this situation where there's senior tech, lead tech, apprentice tech. So there might be situations where somebody is a senior tech, but you're just showing these in a tree, these 3 positions, because you want to show the progression of the career growth within that department. So you start here, then you move here, then you move here. But it might not be that the lead tech manages the apprentice tech. They may mentor them and assist them, but it might not be that they're the manager. If they are the manager, fine, then give them a managerial control panel. But if they're not, you can bypass the person's ability to look into the control panel of the position underneath them by making it a non-managerial assignment. So I'd click lead tech and I make it staff instead of manager. Update. And then if we go back to the dashboard here, you see, I only see control panel here and lead tech. I don't see anything here under management. So let's go back now. And then I'll do the opposite. I'm going to go here and back to control panel and select lead tech. and then make it a manager assignment and hit update. Now I'm saying this person is the manager of this person. So then if we go back here to the dashboard, it will appear. Okay. So for some of you, that might not be an issue, but I just wanted to show that as a possibility. I'm going to remove this assignment and then make it blank again. So if this is a future organization chart, let's run through a scenario of what it would look like if someone had multiple control panels. So let's say I am the owner of the company. I'm the chairman of the board. So I'm going to give myself a control panel for owners, and I'm going to make it a managerial position and hit update. Then let's say I'm not only the chairman of the board, one of the shareholders, one of the owners, but I'm also the president. So I'm going to give myself a control panel for president, manager, because this is a managerial position, definitely. And then I hit update. And then let's say because my company's growing and I've got goals of a lot of growth over the next few years, but I'm not quite there yet. And I don't have the resources to have managerial positions in these three main roles, that I'm also the manager of admin finance. So I would choose that position, make it a manager, and hit update. So now you can see I've got 3 control panels assigned here. And this is just showing that I wear these 3 hats, that I'm responsible for these 3 positions. Hopefully not forever, but for the time being, I am. So now if we go back to the dashboard here, you're going to see 3 control panels here. So remember, this would only be the situation if you were doing a future org chart and you were showing positions people fill currently but won't in the future. How this is beneficial, though, in a growing company is it helps me to kind of compartmentalize what I do, or to see myself in these 3 different roles. Work gets overwhelming, confusing, stressful, unproductive when somebody is just buried in all the work and there is no structure to it. It becomes incredibly inefficient, particularly when someone is jumping from result to result. Like, I'm selling a little bit here, I'm handling customers here, I'm dealing with technicians here, I got to print the finance reports because the bookkeeper's calling. So all of that work can feel disjointed, and it's through many studies on organizational design and workflow. It's very mathematical that kind of workload and variation is not productive. This helps with that, though, because I can start to see my work here as the owner, as the chairman of the board. I can see my work as the president. I can see my work as the manager of administration and finance. And a lot of small growing businesses, these 2 roles just get completely forgotten, more or less. I mean, sometimes you might jump in and say, I have to manage 3 departments, or I have to deal what's happening in sales, but then also what's happening in administration and finance because I'm the president. But the real work of a president, the true work that a CEO does, is generally not done in a small business, because we go back to the org chart here, all the attention is pulled to the downline here. So all the focus and thought is getting the work done, selling the product, evaluating things. It's not high level up here. And the reason that is because the high level work, the strategic work, it always feels like it can be done later, right? Because when the phone's ringing, you got to jump and answer the phone. This is another reason why processes don't get built in businesses, in a lot of small businesses, and why it's such a struggle to really find the time to do it. It's because of the pulling of all the doing it work, like Michael Gerber would say. The working on the business is what suffers. So this is just my 2 cents on why this kind of structure for the owner of the company can be really great. Because I could look at my week and I could say, okay, well, on Mondays from 2 to 5, I'm going to do my work as the owner. I go to my processes, and there wouldn't be a ton here, and I go through and do this work. So I can click on the process, I can think about it, I can prepare some higher level strategies that I'm working on. I could collaborate with the accountant on changes we want to make to the overall structure of the company. I can get external advisors in to kind of give me information. I can study business gurus and other workshops that I want to go to. So you're thinking as the entrepreneur and doing this work. And then I could say to myself, well, on every morning from 8 to 11, I'm going to do the work of the president. So click this position, and then it's the same idea. So here's all the work that the president does, and I would set about just kind of going through and doing this work as I needed to. This structures the work. It reminds you of what you need to do as the president, if you are the president. And then lastly, I go to my manager of admin finance work. I'm like, okay, so this is my department. These are the people in my department, and this is the work I need to do as that position. And so that gets done at the other times of the day. So think about this scenario. This setup also helps for managers who have been promoted to be the manager, but then are also very much tied to the technical work. So if we go back to the org chart here, so say I am the manager of sales and marketing, but then I'm also the best salesperson. And then I also do some amount of contribution to advertising. Or I'm the manager of operations, but I also have to jump in and do like lead tech service stuff when it's required. This is, I think, some of the most challenging positions or situations to have in a small business, because you are trying to manage the people and the process, but then you're tied to the work, like it's dependent upon you. And there's not enough time to then fully be the managerial role. And it's further compromised by the pressure that's put on a person when they're accountable for the results of the sales over here. And then I am being told, well, delegate that. But then when I do, the results aren't there because there is no process, and then ultimately it falls back on me. So this is just a complicated situation in any growing business, but an organization chart, processes, and this dashboard setup can certainly assist with that. So this situation would be where I would have a salesperson's control panel, and then I would also have the manager of admin or of sales and marketing's control panel. Okay, so that is the basics of account administration. If you haven't set up users yet, I would just highly recommend this. It's just so beneficial. And there's no reason not to, because you're not going to have to pay anything extra to set up all of your employees. By setting up your employees and introducing them to TouchStone, it helps you to push the process, the goal of having a process-dependent business. It helps you to accelerate that, to have a way to talk about it. Even if you don't have a ton of processes documented yet, getting your employees into TouchStone, showing them the org chart, showing them the dashboard functionality, really showing them what a documented process looks like can be hugely beneficial. Even if your intention is not to have all your employees going in and helping you to document, you certainly could start the conversation about getting the processes documented. I was talking to a user the other day, and he's had his TouchStone account for years and never got everything fully documented. And he told me that about a year ago, he decided just to start talking about the processes in his weekly meetings. So he said that here on the org chart, he would just discuss a process with that particular department. Like say here in, I can't remember the example he used, but say here in this department, admin finance, we just make like financial statement preparation, like a process to discuss. And he said they literally started like documenting it in the meeting. Like, what's the first thing? What's the second thing? And just slowly over time started ticking off processes and documenting them. And he drove the motivation for this by discussing the impact of not having the process. So like here, if we're doing accounts receivable, this whole department, or here's another better example. Let's say this department has to run payroll, and the payroll is determined by timesheets. But all of these people here aren't filling out their timesheets and vacation requests and all that accurately and correctly. And so this manager just dumps them over here at the due deadline. But then when we start to sit down and look at them, it's like, this doesn't make any sense. And so then we got to go back over here and say, hey, guy here, like, what does this mean and that mean? Okay, I'll fix it for you. And then this back and forth happens between payroll here and timesheets here. And it's just such a waste of time. These guys are all irritated that you're interrupting them and making it difficult for them. And then everyone's irritated over here because it's just such a waste of time to have to be going back and forth. Well, situations like this, a process would fix that. An accurate process for time tracking over here, an accurate process for payroll over here. If these guys and girls are doing it all correctly, then this happens correctly. So these kinds of irritations between departments can really be beneficial because employees see the value of the process. It's not just you saying, do this, there's a real value to everyone.